On today's show, as the Capitals prepare to take on the Flyers, one thing is important, and it's not to underestimate your opponent, despite the fact that the Capitals have won 3 in a row and the Flyers have lost 4 in a row. We still need to take that team seriously.
Your Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of Locked On Capitals. I'm so glad you decided to join me today. As always, this podcast is free and available on all the major platforms, including the SiriusXM app and on YouTube. And I want to thank you for making this your first listen each and every day. My name is Dan Holme. I've covered the Capitals for the last 3 seasons for Locked On and various other outlets before that. I'm also the host of the weekly show called The Capitals Minutecast, available wherever you find your podcasts. You can find me on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps. And the best way that you can help grow the show is to subscribe to Locked On Capitals on YouTube and comment anything down below. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So in this edition of Locked On Capitals, we talk about the Caps as they prepare for back-to-back games against the Philadelphia Flyers. And going into these games, I'm already hearing the chatter out there that these should be 2 easy wins for the Capitals, as the Capitals are coming off 3 big wins in a row, and the Flyers, well, they're coming off 4 straight losses. That is how you enter into a trap game. I'll talk about that a little bit later. We'll talk about what to expect from this Flyers team, despite the fact that they're in last place in the Metro. This team has some elite players. I'll talk about that a little bit later. I'll talk about Jakob Chychrun and where are the Capitals at with him. As we take a look at the blue line, should we already have our eyes set for the future? And what is the future with Chychrun on this team? I'll talk about that. And then in the final segment, I'll talk about renovations at Capital One Arena. But just to get it going here, there's a lot of excitement that surrounds this team as you take a look at Tom Wilson scoring 5 goals in 4 games and all of this kind of thing, that it's a really exciting thing. And it's an exciting time to be a Capitals fan. But like I talked about right off the top here, is it's important not to enter into these back-to-back games with the idea that it's going to be easy, that this team is really good. That is exactly when the Flyers are going to lay the trap and snap it right on top of you. So I think the Capitals need to take this team seriously. And in this first segment, I'm going to contrast the differences. 2 teams in 2 different places in where they're at right now. I think the Capitals are trending upwards. I think that the Flyers are still in the midst of somewhat of a rebuild. They're still trying to find their way, but still ultimately, the one thing I know for sure is that with John Tortorella being the head coach of the team, and all he demands out of his players, I know that they are going to give the Capitals all they could ask for and more. But it's exciting to see this team, like I said, playing so well, winning 3 in a row. I think, I take a look back at the first game of the regular season against the New Jersey Devils, and I'm like, wow, this team looks rough. And as it turns out, that was just rust. This was a team that wasn't firing on all cylinders, as they subsequently knocked them all out of the park after that, facing some big opponents. I'm talking the Golden Knights. I'm talking the Stars. I'm talking the New Jersey Devils the second go round, that this Capitals team is headed in a good direction. And as the NHL season progresses, the Caps are aiming for their 4th straight win against the struggling Flyers. After an initial home loss to the New Jersey Devils, the Capitals have bounced back, securing victories against the Golden Knights, Dallas Stars, and then exacting revenge on the Devils. Over these 3 games, the Caps netted a total of 13 goals. And already that is quite the contrast over last season. Last season, the Capitals struggled in the goal scoring department. So to see them getting off to a great start is reassuring. We are seeing goal scoring primarily from Tom Wilson. We're seeing it from Dylan Strome, but we're hoping that we can start to see more scoring up and down the lineup. One of the things, and some of the hallmarks of the teams that are in a really good position are the teams that have goal scoring up and down their lineup. Like Spencer Carberry said, there is no line on the Capitals that's going to score 100 goals between them. This is going to be goal scoring by committee. But all things considered, the Capitals are in a good position. They could expect to see more. I was on Locked On NHL, and they asked about Alex Ovechkin. We want to see him find the back of the net with more regularity, and also Pierre-Luc Dubois, just to name a couple there. But talking about Tom Wilson and Alex Ovechkin in the second matchup against the Devils, Tom Wilson showcased his prowess by netting the game-winning goal just 4 minutes into overtime, contributing to a hard-fought 6-5 victory. This is where the positivity emanates from. Is that this team had the lead, the game got tied, they got the lead, the game got tied, and they found a way to win in OT. And that wasn't necessarily the case of the Capitals last season, where it seems if they faced any pressure or any pushback, that they kind of folded like a deck of cards. This is a team that has some tenacity and pushback. Alex Ovechkin scored his first goal of the season, marking his 854th of his career. He now stands 40 goals away from Wayne Gretzky's all-time record of 894. Post-game, Ovechkin emphasized Wilson's pivotal role, stating he's being rewarded for his efforts on the ice. He's arguably the hottest player in the league. And do you hear that? Everyone around the NHL that's dubbed Tom Wilson as just kind of this goon, this guy that knows how to drop the mitts, but that's all he has. He is one of the best in the league and is currently leading the Capitals in goals. Talking about team dynamics and contributions, Wilson has tallied 5 goals early in the season, maintaining a scoring streak with at least 1 goal in each game. His game-winning resulted from a well-executed 2-on-1 break, expertly set up by Strome. Strome commented, "Our players are putting in the effort. We're performing well overall, and it's essential we maintain this consistency." Yes, and one of the things the Capitals will need to do, like I say, is concentrate on scoring up and down the lineup. Because if Tom Wilson, if that hot streak cools, which inevitably it will at some point, who is going to be the player to answer the bell? It can't be just Dylan Strome. The Capitals went out and made some big acquisitions that we need to see more goal scoring all around. Now let's contrast the difference. I just got done talking about the Capitals. Now let's talk about the Flyers. The Flyers are in a predicament with 4 straight losses, struggling to generate offense pressure during Saturday's 3-0 shutout against the Canucks, although they created better scoring opportunities in the latter 2 periods. They faced their first shutout of the season. And again, do not underestimate this team. It's coached very well. They have a lot of players with a lot of potential. Matvei Mishka, for example, that I think despite the record and despite the losing streak by the Flyers, it is still going to be a tough out for the Capitals. Overall impact, Jakob Chychrun, we're expecting to see more from him on the blue line as well. And it's not just Jakob Chychrun. What we're expecting to see against the Flyers is that pushback. What we have seen thus far with this team is some goal scoring in different directions. We're seeing contributions from the blue line, and ultimately that is why the Capitals are where they're at. So just in this segment here, talking about what's working for the Capitals, what's not going right for the Flyers, and ultimately what is making the Capitals be in the position that they're in. It's from stout defense like Jakob Chychrun, John Carlson, those kind of players. What is the future of Jakob Chychrun on this team? I'll discuss straight ahead. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. And, there is a lot of football being played on any given Sunday or Monday or Thursday. So some of those games you're into, some of them you're not. To pique your interest, open up the FanDuel app, put a little bit of money on the game. All of a sudden, those games got that much more exciting. That's FanDuel.com. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So kind of taking a look, assessing this team right now and kind of looking into the future. What players that were acquired this past summer, which one of those players should the Capitals concentrate on re-signing or signing an extension or have plans for bringing back to this team? We do know that Jakob Chychrun is under contract this season. We do know that Andrew Mangiapane is under contract for this season. But after that, it's a bit ambiguous. We don't know what the future is for those two players. You could also enter into that mix as Logan Thompson as well. So this team is going to be better on paper this year based on the acquisitions made either through free agency or trade this past summer. But is it too soon to start looking at these players and thinking about, do they have a home on this team in the long term? I know that if we want to take a look at Jakob Chychrun, for example, he is a great player, a great hockey IQ, moves the puck very well, a stout defenseman, but it's a small sample size, right? Is it too early to have grander plans for Jakob Chychrun? Jakob Chychrun's offensive contributions and his composure with the puck have significantly enhanced the Capitals' performance, particularly noticeable in the team's strong start to the season. Although Chychrun is still relatively early in his tenure, his presence in the lineup has made a clear difference, indicating that he has the potential to become an impactful player for the Capitals for years to come, if they choose to do that. And you take a look at it, Matt Roy's under contract for 6 years with the Capitals, even though he's, injured right now. So we don't have an accurate assessment of what he's going to be like on this team. One of the things that former GM BMAC said is he wants to see what Jakob Chychrun thinks. I think that it's easy to think that, the Capitals should be all in on these players. But what are some of the things that we know about Jakob is that the rumor mill out there was that he wanted out of the Coyotes, that he wanted out of the Senators. Let's not push him into making a decision that he doesn't want to make. And furthermore, that's from Jakob Chychrun's perspective. From the Capitals' perspective, is do they want to extend him to a long-term deal? Many people are making comparisons to the overhaul on the blue line. I'm talking Chychrun and Roy. And they're comparing it to years ago when the Capitals made some big moves with Orpik and Niskanen as well. While I am impressed with what I've seen with Jakob Chychrun out on the ice, I think it's still a little bit early. Let's see what he looks like after this team goes through a losing streak. Let's see what he looks like if things aren't going so well for the Capitals. What will his attitude be like? That is why I think it is, even though I'm very impressed, I think the Capitals should proceed with caution. Chychrun is set to become an unrestricted free agent at the conclusion of the season. General manager Chris Patrick considers re-signing him to a long-term contract a top priority. That was one of the things that he said. And of course he would say that. I don't think that at this point, Chris Patrick's going to say, man, I don't know what we're going to do with this guy. And there's a lot to love about Jakob Chychrun's game, right? He has played very well. But I think that the right attitude to take is to just take it slow. We have him under contract for this season. Let's not jump to any conclusions. Defensive abilities, defensively speaking, Chychrun exhibits quick recovery, allowing him to match up effectively against various opponents. His stick handling and high hockey IQ enable him to manage the puck proficiently, minimizing turnovers and maintaining possession under pressure. He is all of that. He is one heck of a hockey player. And I think that he would be a really big addition to this team in years to come. I know that he's going to be on the team this year, but I could see him finding a home on this team in years to come. if that's what he wants and ultimately what the Capitals are looking for. Talking about his on ice skills, Chychrun's impact extends beyond his statistical contributions. His skill set is truly remarkable. He possesses elite skating ability, characterized by speed and fluidity, which enhances his offensive capabilities. His effective transitions, moving the puck up the ice, joins offensive play seamlessly and poses a dual threat with both his precise passing and powerful shot. There is a lot to like, and it's going to be interesting to see what we see from him in games to come. What really stood out to me in the last game is how well he moved up the ice when he had the puck on his stick and faced little resistance. Even though he was up against a truly great New Jersey Devils team, he still found a way to navigate north up through the ice flawlessly. So you can see how great of a skater he is. You can see how great of a puck handler he is, that I think that it was the right move for the Capitals. And to be clear here, former GM Brian McClellan said that, Chychrun has been on the Capitals' radar for quite some time. It wasn't just this last summer. Even before he went out to Ottawa, the Capitals were interested in the services of Jakob Chychrun. Talking about his statistics, though, after the first 4 games of the season, Chychrun has tallied 1 goal and 2 assists, along with an impressive +5 rating. He plays a vital role on the top defensive pairing with John Carlson. Chychrun is currently second on the team in average ice time, averaging 22 minutes per game. Now, that's huge. And why is that huge? Is that John Carlson was the guy that was playing routinely 25 to 30 minutes per night last season. Not sustainable for Carlson or the Capitals. So to have someone that can alleviate that pressure. So in addition to Chychrun, also Roy, players like that, players that can play quality minutes, I think that's key. You can just shove any blue liner out there and you might not get the same kind of return. You take a look at Rasmus Sandin and where he's out on the ice now, lower down in the pairings there, where I think when he first came here, he was bumped up high. And necessarily, I think the workload for him was more than he was comfortable with. Even though he didn't state any dissatisfaction, I think that in a case like Rasmus Sandin, he's not the kind of guy that I think is, going to flourish playing 22 minutes plus on a routine basis. Chychrun, who's built very well. If you've seen any of the videos, he takes impeccable care of himself with nutrition and working out, and ultimately why he is a tough guy out there, why he's durable, why he can play 22 minutes a night. So I think that those are all things that make him important to this team and ultimately why he's had early success. Talking about team performance, the Capitals have made notable strides at the beginning of 24-25, and a lot of that is due to Jakob Chychrun. I want that to be clear. Significantly influenced by the performance of Chychrun, his impact has been crucial in helping the team achieve victories in their last 3 games. So that, to put a bow on this segment, that is my feeling on it, is that I love what I see out on the ice with Jakob Chychrun. I like what he's done so far, but what I also know is that it's very early in the season. I know the back of his hockey card. I know his quirks. And, like I talked about earlier, that sometimes, in his mind, he loses favor with the team that he's playing on, or perhaps the Capitals will as well. Let's just adapt a wait and see process. But for living in the right here, right now, I've loved what I've seen from Jakob Chychrun so far, and we hope for his hot streak to continue. All right, so coming up here after the break, we'll talk about renovation plans for Capital One Arena. What will it mean for Capitals fans going to the game? I'll discuss coming up. We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent survey. So if you are involved in the hiring or the firing or HR in general, you need Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/locked on. Just go to Indeed.com/locked on right now and support our show by saying you heard about it on the Locked On Capitals podcast. Indeed.com/locked on. Terms and conditions apply. You need to hire. You need Indeed. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So changes at Capital One Arena. That seems all in vogue nowadays, is that you have to have the latest, the greatest, the newest. If you take a look at the nice rinks around the NHL, you take a look in Seattle, the one that the Islanders are playing at, there's a lot of them. Detroit, Edmonton comes to mind, where the New York Rangers, Madison Square Garden. And I think at the end of the day, a lot of it is keeping up with the Joneses or keeping up with what is popular in the NHL. And one of the things is having a really great facility. And, being at Capital One Arena, I think it's a great facility. Could it be better? Of course it could be better. And this ultimately all comes after Ted Leonsis tried to move the team and was unsuccessful. He tried to move it to Virginia, and ultimately they balked at that, and why the Capitals are staying in the district. So this is plan B. Make no mistake about it. But renovations to it, if they got the backing, there is a lot to love about where the Capitals are at and what they plan on doing in the future. So talking about the Capitals and their big move coming up here, the Capitals have unveiled an ambitious $800 million renovation project for Cap One aimed at enhancing the venue's functionality and aesthetic appeal. Talking about legislative framework on Monday, Monumental Sports and Entertainment, the governing body of the Capitals, alongside Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser, announced the legislative framework for the extensive redevelopment initiative. The project scope includes modernizing infrastructure, improving fan experience, and upgrading operational facilities. Completion is anticipated before the onset of the 2027-2028 season. So it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take some time, marking a significant step in the arena's evolution. And that was something that I spoke of, last summer, talking about a potential move for the Capitals away from Capital One Arena and what that would have meant. And ultimately what that would have meant is moving away from the area where I think the fans like it the best, and also alienating and subsequently probably speaking the demise of a lot of the businesses that surround Capital One Arena. I'm talking restaurants, bars, hotels, those kind of things. And I understand that it's not Ted Leonsis' job to make all those businesses stay in business at the end of the day, but I think it's a good thing to do. And I'm really happy that the Capitals are staying put where they're at right now, and it looks like they're going to be spending a lot of money to make Cap One even better. Talking about statements from leadership, the construction of a state-of-the-art arena represents a pivotal investment by Monumental Sports in the ongoing revitalization of downtown, stated Ted Leonsis, founder and CEO of MSC. In a recent press release, the new facility will not only provide an exceptional experience for our fans, but also serve as a premier destination for athletes, enhancing the vibrancy of our downtown area while also contributing to its economic growth. And it's something, it seems like that message got out. It had to go a long way. It had to go to the final moment, as they said before, that the framework was in place for the team to move. As it turns out, there wasn't much framework in place. They didn't care so much about the businesses that surrounded until they're like, hey, you guys aren't moving. You're staying right where you're at. And then all of a sudden, now they all of a sudden care about the economic growth. But that's rather here nor there. Vision for the arena are a commitment to creating a completely reimagined sports and entertainment hub is notable and ambitious. It will reflect the diverse spirit of our community and be meticulously designed to impress both our most dedicated supporters and those who might be more casual fans. We aim to ensure that this venue becomes a cornerstone of entertainment and engagement in the city, fostering a sense of pride and connection among all who visit. That's a great vision for Cap One and what it's going to look like going forward. Alternative proposals dismiss plans were reportedly in development for the Capitals and MSC-owned Washington Wizards to relocate to Alexandria, Virginia. However, these proposals were ultimately dismissed as monumental sports and entertainment, and the city shifted focus towards renovating the nearly 27-year-old Cap One Arena in downtown Washington, D.C. Again, I am for it. I'm glad that the Capitals didn't move from listening to the fans that go to the games on a regular basis. They like the idea of keeping the team put right where it is. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it seems like the right idea. Talking about investment and support, the recently established public-private partnership is set to channel a substantial investment of $515 million into the project over the next 3 years, a decision that received unanimous support from the DC Council this past April. So the big thing here is the enhancements for fans and athletes. The transformative initiative aims to significantly enhance the fan experience of the arena, introducing features such as wider concourses that promote a more comfortable flow for visitors, an expanded main entrance that invites guests in and with open arms, an increased number of concession stands and restrooms to better cater to the needs of patrons. So it does seem like they have left no stone unturned. And at the end of the day, it seems like the right move for the Capitals. Again, this is not something that's going to be ready next season, but I think it is all about keeping Cap One Arena relevant as it gets older and older. It doesn't seem like it's that old, but I guess that's what happens as you get older, is things just get older and you don't really notice it. But at the end of the day, it seems like they have the backing to do it. And since they're not moving out to Virginia, let's make the most of the opportunity where the team's at right now. And for me, I like the location and I look forward to what it brings to the fans in the future. All right, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, your only daily year-round podcast covering the Capitals. And I want to thank all of you that listen on the audio side and watch this on YouTube. You are ultimately what makes this show successful. All right, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Dan Holme, and I'll talk to you again next time.